The downfall of Ubisoft is something that plenty of people have been wanting for a while now, and we're seeing it happen in real time, and it's kind of hard to look away from it. Just to keep you slightly updated on the news, it's going badly. A lot of employees are leaving, a lot of employees are refusing to work as they are currently striking, specifically because of the work from home policies that were implemented during the pandemic and that now are being taken away from them. So the decline keeps going. But the thing that I care about the most is that we've had recent reports that everything regarding Assassin's Creed Infinity keeps marching on. Now, I have talked about Assassin's Creed Infinity briefly in one of my videos talking about this, but I haven't really delved deeper into it. And as the rumors keep showing up, I think it's very important that we talk about this. Assassin's Creed Infinity, to me, represents everything wrong with the future of games, all in one nice, tight little package that Ubisoft wants to push on you. And I think we need to understand how serious this is, despite being one of the least talked about aspects around Assassin's Creed Shadows and around Ubisoft in general, because if we don't know what it is, we can't properly complain about it, and we can't boycott it, and we can't tell them that they need to stop. So I have two goals in this video. I want to make sure you understand why it makes business sense for Ubisoft to chase this idea, to the point where I even consulted with psychologists, plural, to make sure that I could explain some of the manipulation that is going on here and how they want to trick you into spending money on useless garbage and how they're implementing every shady tactic possible to make that happen. And the second goal is to explain the horrible impact that this could have not just on future Ubisoft games, which are pretty much in question already, but on the industry in general if by some miracle this thing came out and was successful. So hi, I'm Mug. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. This is a pretty big video with a lot of stuff that I think really matters. So if you do find it informative, if you think it's worth sharing around, all I ask is that you please hit the like button. That helps the video reach more people. Anyways, thanks for watching. Let's get into it. Now, just in case you have no idea what Assassin's Creed Infinity is, it's something that's meant to launch with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it's the new future hub for everything Assassin's Creed. It's a backdrop for everything. It's a replacement for what used to be the modern day segments, the idea of the Animus and connecting to it and going into ancestors' memories and things like that. Except now it's meant to be positioned in a hub-like structure where they're going to host all of the Assassin's Creed experiences, starting with Shadows. It's supposed to have an ongoing story and bring back that idea of going into the past through DNA and all of that. But its most important feature is to connect all of the Assassin's Creed experiences together. So theoretically, you would log into this hub, that's where you would launch everything regarding Assassin's Creed, and then from there, you could go over and choose which experience to jump into, be that Assassin's Creed Shadows, the only one that would be available at launch, or any of the smaller expansions that they would come out, every future entry in the series, the new multiplayer projects that they're working on, and they would all exist in the hub interconnected. Now, this in itself doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world. There's plenty of games that are attempting to do this hub-like structure. So far, most of them are exclusively multiplayer. Think something like Fortnite, which has multiple games that it's trying to host. Think of even stuff like Call of Duty, where it kind of has a hub that's not very well implemented, but you switch between campaign and Warzone and zombies and all the multiplayer stuff. And of course, from a very different side of gaming, we have something like Roblox, and it's this idea of creating a platform instead of simply a game. And while I'm sure you could argue that, hey, it's convenient or it's cool or something interesting, the truth is that you could just have separate games and nothing really would change, right? Well, the reason they want to implement it is precisely because of what changes. From insider reports that we've been receiving for a very long time, most of them courtesy of Tom Henderson over at Insider Gaming, we know that one of the main reasons for Assassin's Creed Infinity is for users to have a centralized location from which to access content. The main goal is to make sure that users continue to engage with the experiences no matter what. And even in the case of examples for Assassin's Creed Shadows, the priority that Ubisoft has explicitly set out is to find ways to keep people playing the same game. This single-player game that theoretically should just end. Now, I know this might be a controversial opinion for some people. Some people really like games to last forever or something. But I think it's pretty great that you can just replay a game, or that in the case of a single-player game that it comes to an end, and if there's further DLC, as we've seen with Assassin's Creed, when it comes out, you go and play it, and then you put the game down, and then just play something else and return. But that is not what Ubisoft wants. They want to implement as many systems as possible to make it so you keep playing even when there's no good reason for you to keep playing. And that's a very important thing. If you really love a game because it's excellent, you don't need the carrot on the stick. You'll find excuses for yourself to keep playing it. You'll start speedrunning it, who knows? But what Ubisoft wants is to implement content drops that are frequent enough to make sure that Assassin's Creed is the only game that some of its customers play. That includes incorporating small battle passes in between content droughts of expansions or additional things. So admitting that they have nothing good to release, so we're just going to release mini battle passes, as they've called it, to make sure that they keep the players engaged. And they want to implement the same things that you would see in battle passes. So things like daily logins or missions that require multiple days of logging in order to complete. And they want to bolt those things onto a game to make sure that you keep playing it. And this is where we need to talk about the psychology behind this. Now, I know this might sound very obvious to some of you, but I think it's worth putting into words anyways. We, as humans, are more likely to spend money, specifically money that others might perceive as a wasted amount of value, on things that we spend a lot of time on. I'm sure most of us are all guilty of spending 20 bucks on a skin, or even 30 bucks on a skin for a game that we play a lot, instead of, I don't know, going to buy Factorio. Instead of buying any full-ass video game on sale that would probably be a great experience. But we found ways to justify to ourselves that the $30 on some ultimate skin in a live service game was worth it. In a vacuum, many people can look at that investment and say that it's a waste of money, especially because it doesn't affect the game beyond you having a skin. But the truth is that people spend it anyways, and this is mimicked throughout life. We psychologically justify our spending depending on how much value we find in the thing we're spending it on, even if to other people it might seem irrational. You'll notice this with pretty much anybody who picks up a hobby and somebody observing from beyond. Oh, your friend picked up tennis? Well, maybe when he started, he would play with the basic shoes that he could have, some gym shorts that he had from doing something else, and whatever t-shirt he found, and a starter $130 racket. But as they keep investing time into tennis and they keep enjoying it, they might find themselves spending $200 on shoes, getting a couple of fits to go play tennis, and spending $300 to $400 on multiple different rackets. And maybe you, as a person who doesn't play a lot of tennis, thinks that's dumb because they were playing tennis just fine without spending that much money. But as you keep investing into something, as you start spending 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week on the same thing, as it provides you happiness, as it becomes something healthy that you enjoy doing, you're going to find yourself investing a lot more money into it. And to them, it's completely justified, even if to somebody outside looking in, it seems like a dumb waste. I'm sure you've heard it elsewhere, or you might have said it yourself, that for one thing that I do for me, one thing that I enjoy for myself, why shouldn't I spend a little bit of extra money on it? And this is where pretty much every single monetization tactic begins. This is what that monetization director at Ubisoft that tried to gaslight us, this is his job. The priority is on audience retention. That means they want you to play the game as much as possible. But if you play a game for 100 hours, you're very likely to spend money on it, even if the experience wasn't amazing. You're going to justify it based on your free time. You already spent so much time on something that it becomes easy to justify additional spending. Where if a game were only 10 hours and then came out with a DLC, unless the quality of those initial 10 hours were so exceptional that they stuck with you, that you're just excited for that new DLC as if it were a whole new game, think something like Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, you're not really going to find an easy way to justify that additional spending. You just really need to be attached to it, where you can have a cheat code to creating attachment by forcing people to play a game for a very long time. And again, it's very important to remind you that it doesn't matter if the game is good. It helps, obviously it helps a lot, but there's a lot of ways to kind of compensate for the quality of something with different tactics. Tactics that Ubisoft wants to implement as much as possible. There's a reason that most multiplayer games with battle passes have daily login bonuses or weekly challenges. A lot of them still have daily challenges, and if they could, they would have them very time kept. And the reason for that is that they want to create a habit where every time you have free time, every day for maybe 1 or 2 hours a day, you spend your time playing them. I've got to log in and do my dailies. The more that you do this, the more time that you spend on the game, the easier it is for you to justify spending extra money on it. Be that because you already invested into the battle pass and you might need to spend a couple extra bucks to finish it, or because you're saying, well, I spend most of my free time playing Apex Legends, so why wouldn't I spend $500 on an heirloom? Assassin's Creed Infinity is applying those same concepts to a single-player game at the start, and then trying to rope you in and combine it with you playing a bunch of different games across the Assassin's Creed-averse or whatever. Implementing daily login bonuses and battle passes is just the start, because we have other horrible things like weekly stores with rotating every 48-hour sales. Does that really sound to you like a premium AAA or quadruple A video game experience in a single-player game? And I know that Ubisoft has been pretty egregious with its cash shops in the past, but this is just reaching a whole new level in my opinion. They want to push people into single-player battle passes with daily logins to spend money on time-gated shops to inspire FOMO, and on top of all of it, they're using a couple of other really scummy tactics in the middle related to a potential subscription service. Another one because Uplay isn't enough, but this one seems to be specifically geared towards a really good value for your money of probably something along the lines of a premium cosmetic costing somewhere between $10 to $20 and the subscription service being $10 and coming with an expensive cosmetic every month, plus some currency that you can spend on the store every month as well. And this is a pretty well-known tactic where you have a very inflated value for a lot of the objects, and then you offer them at a special bundle or discounted price that rewards you for consistently staying connected to it, because it appears to be such a great value versus the completely artificial and fabricated value that they did. A lot of people will gravitate towards it as if it were on sale. But the reality of the subscription service is that it psychologically tricks you into, to get value from it, you have to log in consistently to check up on your rewards and take advantage of the other benefits that the subscription service offers, which in turn means that you're spending more time on the game, which means that you're more likely to justify additional spending. This is also often combined with additional discounts, an additional 10% if you're a subscriber to Assassin's Creed, to Animus Plus. I don't know. They're not smart enough to call it Animus Plus, but that would be cool. Cool is not the right word in this circumstance, I'm aware, but you get my point. From rumors that are still unconfirmed, it seems that a lot of these cosmetics would be cross-game throughout the hub. Makes sense, otherwise why would you unify everything? And that would also serve the idea of increasing the value of every object by putting it in a bunch of different things. But that would also mean that they're incentivizing you to use those different objects, those skins, cosmetics, effects, whatever, throughout a multitude of different Assassin's Creed games that, I will remind you, are still for sale. It's not like for subscribing to this service you would get the games. No, they would be showing you, hey, you unlocked all of these things for Assassin's Creed Shadows and now you can use them in a new multiplayer game. Would you like to pay $40 to start playing this game? By the way, by playing it, you can unlock in the game after 40 hours of grinding and multiplayer matches a unique armor that you can use in Assassin's Creed Shadows and our next upcoming Assassin's Creed 4 remake. And I hope that now you see how the wheels are turning. Everything here is designed to keep players playing this one game forever, because the more that we can make them play exclusively our game, the more that we can have them justify absurd amounts of spending month after month on different things. Because if all you ever do with your PlayStation 5 or your PC or whatever is open up Assassin's Creed Infinity, it's gonna become easy for you to justify $30 on a shitty skin. Not to mention about 30 other things that go into this to psychologically reinforce the value of these things, which once again, I talked with 2 psychologists in order to get their opinion on some of these systems and how they are meant to manipulate us. I did that for a script on a video talking exclusively about monetization in games, which I had to kind of scrap for multiple reasons. One of them being I'm not really sure how interesting that video would be to people, but if that's something that you would like to see, please let me know in the comments below. Now, this nightmare hellscape of a company just trying to siphon your attention in order to siphon your money later on is really just an evolution of how a lot of free-to-play systems work already. It's just being done in a bigger ecosystem, trying to find more hooks that they can put into you while still selling you full-price games. But the real harm of something like this is how it affects the design of the actual game. And the first thing that you have to remember is that the ideal for a company that wants to make money, which is the case for Ubisoft and many other companies, is to spend as little as possible and make as much as possible. So this isn't a world where they want to feed you constant high quality content that you're invested in returning to. What they want to do, by their own words of their shitty battle passes to fill in content droughts, is to have the minimum amount of content with as many psychological hooks for you to keep playing, but that isn't limited to just that practice. The game that they're gonna put those hooks into needs to be designed around that possibility. And this is where a potential trend gets really scary. Assassin's Creed Infinity and all of these plans were designed alongside Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's one of the other things they prioritized instead of having historians on board since day one. Great decisions, Ubisoft. You really do care. That means that it's very clear that a lot of the systems in the game have to be designed around the implementation of these additional content packs and battle passes. That means there needs to be content, or at least systems in the game, that are endlessly repeatable with very little modification to them in order to pad out something like a battle pass. That means there should be systems in the game that reward things that are time gated, like logging in every day. Maybe something like accumulating resources for the town that you're supposed to build, or the stronghold that we've gotten hints of in Shadows. I mean, that's not very different from systems that we saw all the way back in Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of obtaining collection systems, kind of like a Farmville thing, that we would then use those resources to upgrade stuff. But what happens if now that's also locked behind a daily login bonus and boosted by your Animus Plus subscription service? How was the design of the world or the combat either compromised or cut in order to accommodate for future content routes and battle passes? How much motivation is there for a loot system to exist because it's fun versus how easy it is to then use it for those battle passes? And these are very real concerns, because by these systems existing, they already cast doubt on the motivation behind the design of it. If we look back at some of the best Ubisoft games of the past 20 years, if we look at things like Assassin's Creed 2, well, the Ezio trilogy, or Far Cry 3, I think is a really good example. Far Cry 3 knew how to implement optional content in a way that actually served the main game and the overall experience. Hey, you've got side quests and optional challenges where you can go and hunt this big animal, this legendary animal in a region, and on the way there you will probably find that, hey, you discovered a new outpost, you had a unique experience, you uncovered some cool loot, and it let you upgrade something of your equipment in order to be stronger for the next fight. And sometimes, while the carrot on the stick there is you're gonna get an upgrade for doing this, the truth is that it's all self-contained within the game. You can also choose to not do it, but you want to, because on the journey there, you're actually gonna have fun. And then at the destination, you're also gonna have fun because you're gonna unlock a new skill that's going to change how you continue to interact with the game. This is how certain battle pass-like progression mechanics can work really well. I like to cite Doom 2016 as a great example of it, with how they implemented the challenges for each weapon. Those challenges actually teach you some of the nuances of each weapon within combat. And so the motivation for doing them is not just that it's fun to do and that there's something at the end of the stick, but also also that it teaches you things about those weapons. So especially if you're playing on an easier difficulty, as you train up to the experience of playing them on higher difficulty tiers where you're going to be swapping weapons after every shot and stuff, but you know why and how they work. But the moment that you're implementing those systems tied to subscription services, to battle passes and things like that, you start to question if the design of those are put into the best possible experience for the player, or if they're done in order to keep the player motivated to keep playing the game for as long as possible in order to have them spend money. Having this sort of single-player battle pass hub eternal single-player game design is something that I know people are interested in, because it makes sense that if you really enjoy a game, you would like it to have infinite content. I mean, ARPGs are very much popular. But the danger of something like this succeeding is it becoming something mandatory in most video games over time. It's like the RPGification of games, the trends towards open world games with RPG-like systems, or with loot systems of some description that we've seen over the years. What if the next step in that is to make sure that your game has infinitely replayable mediocre content with systems like loot supporting it, in order to justify the existence of battle passes and more content treadmill? At least for me, it's not difficult to see how this could transform the design of pretty much every AAA game and also smaller AA games in the future as they try and imitate this, not because it's good for the player, but because it's the next big thing for monetization. And this is a monetization system that would very much be extremely harmful to design trends in the industry and the product that we receive as customers in the end. In my opinion, which I'm sure somebody's gonna disagree with, video games should not be designed to be infinitely playable treadmills of content. They should be designed as infinitely replayable experiences of high quality. It's what's healthiest towards the customer, it's what's healthiest towards the creative intent of the games, and it's what's healthiest towards actual innovation instead of trend chasing. And I won't get tired of saying it ever, but great video games will never go away and will never stop succeeding. Great video games are the ones that end up having speedrun communities. Great video games are the ones that people will play for decades to come, not because of the amount of content or the online services they provide, but because of the quality that they have. And to me, that is completely opposed to this idea of incorporating systems into your game that easily allow for you to slot in battle passes and extra content to just keep the player engaged, to keep the hamster in the wheel. Because especially when we're talking about a full price game that you buy, even when it is something to play forever like an ARPG, what should be happening here is that the experience is made to always be as enjoyable as possible to the player. And daily login bonuses with content specifically designed to pad out with minimum effort so people continue to play is not that. So trust me, I can understand the people that might look at Assassin's Creed Infinity and think, this is actually pretty cool. I like this idea. But you have to understand that the reasons that it's being done are not because it's cool or because it would benefit you. It's being done as a way to put in as many hooks into you as possible to end up manipulating you and putting you in a situation where you spend money. And I say manipulating because it's not the same that you enjoy a game so much that you are okay with spending money on it than it is for a game to try and coax you along with minimal effort with as many techniques on pricing, on stores, on FOMO, on the way its content is designed so that you keep doing it even when you don't feel like it. And to me, it's a disgusting blend of some of the worst practices of free-to-play and live services being thrown into AAA single-player games that are meant to represent the opposite. And I can't stop looking at it and thinking that if this were to ever take off, it's a sign of the end times. It's a sign of a ruin for the future, because we would start to see everything pivot to this hub-style system where they need to find as many ways as possible to create content for you to spend extra money on and justify that. It's a future that I find incredibly dangerous. And I think that we should all be very aware of why this is happening, why they want it to succeed, and why, for my money, it needs to fail. Because right now, Ubisoft is pretty much teetering on the edge of surviving or not. And like any wounded animal, it's gonna lower its head. It's been doing that. We're gonna delay the game, we're gonna try and fix some of the problems with it, we're gonna be on Steam on day one, empty platitudes like that because you still need the Uplay launcher. But they're doing that right now because they're wounded. And there is a chance that if Ubisoft knows how to repent and right the ship and repair themselves in some way, that they could survive and start coming out with better games. But none of that would matter with Assassin's Creed Infinity in the middle. If they truly want to recover customer trust, in my eyes, it's not going to be good enough for the games to be decent, or for them to start treating their customers right, or for them to fix the many, many issues going on at the company right now that are very deservedly leading them to ruin. They also need to not do their plan for Assassin's Creed Infinity, which, once again, truly represents for me some of the worst things in gaming altogether. Now, this is something that few people have been talking about, few people have been going in depth on what it is and what the repercussions are, and I really am passionate about making sure that customers are informed of how these companies try and manipulate you. And yes, maybe you are very aware of how these systems work, and you know to stay away from them. But millions of average customers that are hopefully becoming more aware of these things every day still don't know them. Because an informed customer is a smart customer. And with that said, I've been Mug. Thank you so much for watching. Pretty long video, a lot to cover. And you made it all the way through, and I appreciate that greatly. The YouTube algorithm does as well. I hope this video was informative, that it was entertaining, and if it was, please, again, hit the like button. Helps out a ton. If you want more from me, including news, reviews, retrospectives, and videos like this going deeper into things that maybe go overlooked or underexplained, subscribe. My promise to you is that my content will always be authentic and looking out for you, to entertain you, to make you have a better day, or to keep you better informed. A very special thanks to my patrons up on the $1 patron wall who directly support everything I do. It's called that way because there's only one tier, $1, and I'm grateful to them every single day for supporting what I do. And once again, thank you so much for watching. And as always, I'll see you again very soon.